Today on the Women in Media podcast, I have the honor of speaking with Marilyn Denis. How's the show this morning?
The show this morning, after I finish a show, I can't remember what I even talked about. Because
it's like a void.
It's a void. It's like, and then somebody will run into you later on in the day and they go, hey, when you said that thing today, and I said, was that today? For all intents and purposes, it was good.
Good. So I feel like I'm just reading, sort of what's been in the headlines lately, but you're being recognized for a Lifetime Achievement Award, which is why I was excited to catch up with you. But, knowing you in the periphery of all of my colleagues, you've worked with everyone. You're great pals with people I work with.
Yes.
I was just thinking about how you're sort of in a different chapter after 13 seasons of the television show. You're still doing your CHUM morning show. But there's just been a lot of change in the industry lately, and I'm sure you're feeling some of that too. How does it feel day to day right now?
Day to day. Okay, personally speaking, I don't know how I fill up my day after 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock and I go, what happened to the day? Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing that show anymore. But somehow it gets filled up, Sarah. Working out, getting errands done. Actually, I don't get to watch full-on series at night because I go to bed at 7. So I'm logging that in a little bit too. And I get to do this thing where, maybe I should make it into a podcast, is I get to have breakfast with people. So I go, I can meet you at 10 o'clock.
And then
at such and such, and let's, do you want to have lunch or dinner? I go, no, but I do breakfast now because I'm just coming off the show and they're loving it. They're loving that.
Yeah.
So, and, I would just remember a cameraman, my friend Jamie, said to me, when you finish doing the Marilyn Denis show, leave your schedule the way it is, which I kind of have to do with CHUM radio. But don't anything that you already put in there, like workouts at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, leave that where it is because you will work around that schedule and you will be happy that you left it there. And I thought, you know what, he's right. And that's what I've done. Those kind of things. Yeah.
Does the new schedule sort of allow for a little more, would you say like mindfulness?
Yes.
Yeah, because I struggle with that, and I was thinking about how you probably would have done the television show for another 15 years. It was probably just you understanding that you need a different routine.
Yeah, the couple of things, and I've talked about this before, is I wanted the Marilyn Denis show to go back to where it was before we closed things down, May 13th, 2020. And then 4 weeks later, I'm doing the show from my living room with two iPhones, which grew into a camera, which grew into lighting, which like my things changed. And then when we decided that it was a good time to go back into studio, which was very much a skeleton staff, no audience, only on Zoom. My goal was to get back on the air as if it looked like March 2020, like nothing was happening. And we absolutely got to that point. And I felt like, okay, that we finished that circle. That is a completed transaction. Now, how do you feel? I thought, you know what? I think this is a good time to go. And they gave me an elegant exit, as you and I talked about before, but it was the right time. But I knew the first year of not having it was going to be like a kind of an adventure. One of the things I got to do was I got to travel in October.
Happened.
Well, it never happened when I went to school, to university. When we got into radio, that said, no, can't do it. I can't do it with television. And I got to go away with my husband to Italy with Debbie Travis.
Right.
I met up with her then. And that was such a, wow. I said, oh my gosh, I've never been anywhere in the fall. So those are kind of new and different things, which was a real blessing because traveling is, not cheap. But my husband and I really enjoyed it. It didn't matter if it rained or not. We were away.
Yeah.
But those are those kind of little nuggets that happen. And we are planning some other things that are going to happen over the next couple of years, but nothing major. Like a lot of people think when you step down from something, you're going to go do all this traveling. No, not really. I'm just going to kind of power it down a little bit and think differently and be a little bit more mindful.
Yeah. And you can enjoy in a different way when you're in that headspace, which I think is the best part. I'm striving for it now. I just finished teaching a podcasting course at Western University, and I would never, ever launch a network and do that at the same time. I'm like, what was I doing?
What were you doing? And it took up a lot of your time
Yeah.
because if you're not on camera, you're
Yeah.
talking to people behind the scenes, you're getting a curriculum ready, all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
It's so much. So coming back to this Lifetime Achievement Award, I mean, a
Yeah.
beautiful honor. When you think back to your career, I imagine that there's tons of laughs and so many precious memories. But is there a moment that you can remember feeling really proud of yourself? I would love to hear about that moment, even if it was like years and years ago.
Oh, well, when like, I will say that I was doing radio primarily, and then I got little bits and pieces in Calgary, Alberta. Whether it was with the CTV station or with CFAC, like little things like, do you want to come and do this special project? And I thought, wow, they want me.
Little
And they
features.
little teeny tiny features, and that was good. And then, but that, as you know, radio is my main gig. I like
Yeah.
radio. And then when the opportunity came up to audition for City Line, that was great. Now, I had been a guest on City Line about a year and a half before that, quite pregnant. And then we returned to see Deanie Petty because she invited us back as a guest to say, here's Adam. And she was holding Adam. It's a great picture of
Oh.
Adam almost strangling Deanie with her beautiful necklaces. Then the audition, then there was the opportunity to, be a part or host that show. And I was encouraged to do so. And I tried out with many other people. I don't know how many people. And then they told me I got it. And I thought, wow, I got this. Oh, yeah, that's great. And so I thought, how am I going to do it? And I had to get the blessing from CHUM Radio that I could leave at 9 o'clock and go down and do this at 299 Queen Street West.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short is that's what I was most proud of myself. The first show that I did, even though only 7 people showed up in the audience because they liked Deanie, they didn't want the new girl. Okay, I thought, no, I got a lot of things to do. I was proud of myself because it's the first time, Sarah, that I've ever filled someone's shoes. I had already, like in my past, I was the first female disc jockey there, or an announcer that, a female announcer that they never had before. But this was filling somebody's shoes, which was big shoes to fill. So I was most proud of that, and that the fact that they kept. I liked my first day, even though I was really nervous. I had to pee 7 times. I didn't pee the night before, but I was very
Yeah.
proud of that accomplishment. I thought, wow, that was not in my playbook. Not
I'm
at all.
picking up on some of what you're putting down. Also, the fact that like these organizations were willing to work around the dream you had to make it all happen at the
Yes.
same time, which,
Yes.
that's, you just don't hear about that all the time. I
No,
mean,
yeah.
I hear some of those stories on this podcast, and it reminds me of Melissa Bub Clark and with MLSE and her story a
Yes.
little bit, and how it was
Melissa.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like just the idea of, well, I do want to do this, but like I also have this other priority. How can we make it work? And with her, it was
Yeah.
more about the kids and stuff. The kids is so hard to fit it
Yeah.
all into the mix. I mean,
Right.
women just always have so many other things on the go. So
Right. Yeah.
now, on the flip side of this Lifetime Achievement Award, this all sort of
Mhm.
happens at the same time with like Canadian Music Week and
Mhm.
all these awards being given out. There's also like a Young Broadcaster Award. I was just wondering, over your years working with so many different people, so much talent, is there
Mhm.
something that's exciting you about the next generation of broadcasters right now?
Yeah, I think that they are they're going to be multifaceted on their approach of things. It's not just one gig. You have to know a lot of different things, and I think you have to be
Yeah.
very flexible. And I'm seeing that already. I'm seeing that when people come in, interns come in, they can do more than one thing. And those that don't, I worry about thinking this may not be the job for you or the jobs for you because back in the day, I would do CHUM Radio, and then I would do City Line, for example. And that people like, how do you do 2 jobs? Well, now you have to do more than one job. You
Hmm.
have to be flexible. You have to be able to navigate all those things. And that's what excites me because they are so familiar with screen and social media, and and a lot of them don't let that get the better of them. And when you see that strength, you're going, okay. And they're very entrepreneurial, and that's what you
Yes.
have to be. And that excites me when I see it. When I see it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so true right now. Like
Mhm.
even I'm finding myself, I'm like, I thought I was part of the generation that was, all up in the social media thing. And I'm realizing that I still have so much to learn in that space. It's hard to navigate.
It's
It's
hard to
very hard.
navigate. I have Azalea Hart as my Instagram manager because she's so good at it.
Yes.
When I hired her,
Yeah.
I'm not doing my own Instagram. I mean, I approve it. I send her
Yeah.
pictures. I send her video. She sends it back to me. Do you like this? Do you like the messaging here? And I'm like, I love it. But I
Yeah.
know that I'm not good at it. And I know that I want the other struggle I have, maybe you have this too, in the moment. I still want to be in the moment. So sometimes I have
Yeah.
to go,
There's a
I
line.
know social media is important, but I have to be in the moment. I was at the
Yeah.
art project at Exhibition Place the other day, and
Cool.
I love talking to the artists and I love looking at their artwork. And I thought, I should have brought Azalea with me so she could just capture it so I could be in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that they edit things and the way that they manage their social media, it's pretty, for the most part, pretty good. I could learn a lot from them. That's the thing. I'm
Yeah.
getting taught. Hmm.
I have been humbled by somebody teaching me, believe me. So what
Yeah.
you just said really resonates. And I think what's interesting about like maybe your generation and my generation compared to the up and coming generations is
Yes.
they're like, oh, this is a full-time job, like what, whereas we still have things to understand around that, where
Hmm.
like time is money and the
Hmm.
effort and energy required to keep up that stuff, it takes a lot of time. I could spend an hour on one post if I'm doing it the way this person taught me. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So
For sure.
yeah.
And oh, by the way, you have a life.
Yeah.
There's this thing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
family, that sort of thing, and I know
Yeah.
that what the people coming up are not there yet. That's okay. They
Yeah.
will be there, and they'll be able to do it, and the people behind them will
Yes.
do it even faster and
Oh
more,
yeah.
you know, be able
So
to navigate it. Yeah,
what about the separation between this thing you're talking about being present in real life
yeah.
and social media and just like being on, like as the Marilyn Dennis we're used to seeing on television and now in radio, it's like almost like you see video clips of radio all the time too,
Oh,
but
that's
also
we
being
got
present,
cameras, Sarah. We got
right?
cameras that are being set up in there.
It,
I thought I was walking away from cameras. No such luck.
you're like, so we're putting on mascara every day still? Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But how do you like to represent yourself when your online persona versus your real life persona? I think they're very similar. I don't see a
They're
lot of,
very similar.
but
I
the
keep
problem
me
with that
right.
sometimes is like, how do you separate it? Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
well, uh, I pick and choose what I want to be online.
Yeah.
There's certain requirements here at the radio station, and I'll
Of
just
course.
say, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
That's not what I do. My barometer is one of my favorite people I've never met before is Howard Stern. Howard Stern just does the show. That's what he does. You take a piece from the
Yeah.
show, but and I don't really follow him online, but I mean, other than his show. But I think to
Yeah.
myself, he's in his early 70s, and I'm 65, and I'm thinking, there's some things that I am willing to do, and
Yeah.
but I'm more about being in the moment, and does this seem right to me for me? I don't think about brands, but I guess that's what I'm talking about. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so, is that what you're asking? Like,
Yeah, yeah. And like, is there a time that you can think of where, you felt kind of sick after about not being in the moment, that you were caught up in something else that someone was hoping that you were,
I probably have felt that way, but I can't remember what it was, and that's probably why I made the decision at the art show the other day to go, no, 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 we're
We're just
not.
gonna do this.
We're just going to enjoy it with your friends and talk to the artists and leave
Yes.
it like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so mentioning Howard Stern, so he's one of your idols in broadcasting. Do I have that right?
I don't agree with him all the time. I didn't like
Yeah,
early Howard Stern because I didn't think he was very nice to people. But
that's fair.
there is a respect for him for longevity, and he's very smart. But I wouldn't say he's an idol at all. But I
So
look at
tell
him,
me
he's
who is.
who's my idol?
Who are some of them? You can name a couple. Yeah, who have you loved coming up behind?
Um, well, I let Jack Bogut know at KDK in Pittsburgh when I won an award I got in the Canadian. I'm bragging it, but when I was inducted into the Canadian Broadcasters Hall of Fame
Yeah,
for radio, I wrote to him and I said, I just want to let you know that because of you and listening to you every morning at breakfast, that was kind of what I wanted to do. And he wrote back to, he's in his 80s, like maybe early 90s now. And he wrote back a beautiful note to me. He goes, aren't we lucky for what we do? And there was another woman way back in the day. She is no longer on the planet. I just lost her name in my brain because that's what happens sometimes. Kathy, I can't remember her name. Anyway, but I remember she worked at a television station, and the concert choir kids, that'd be me, from North Allegheny High School, we're ready to go on this radio show, and she was at a TV studio, and she was sitting in a chair by herself, and there was another chair across from her, and there was orange shag carpeting. And I looked through that little square window of the studio window, and I was just watching her. And she looks up, and she's quite a distance away, and she said, come on in. I don't remember her name. I'll look it up. And she let me in, and she said, sit across from me. And I sat across from her. She goes, how does that feel? And she did a community show. And I said, oh, it feels pretty good. And I didn't even think about, I love radio so much. I wasn't thinking about TV. And that was a really big moment for me. Pivotal. And I thought, obviously not that pivotal because I can't remember her last name, but I'm going to look it up. But she really allowed me into this foreign world that we only saw at home. And that was really cool. So those are the people that I kind of really respect from my youth, but not having one person, when I grow up, I want to be like that. There was nobody, because there was nobody.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody. I mean, you had your journalists like Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer, but that's not what I do. That's not my lane of broadcasting. Yeah.
In this next phase, is there something new you want to learn or pick up?
I don't. I'm still on my year after retiring from the Marilyn Denis Show, so I really don't have an answer for you on that one.
Well, something that's piquing your curiosity, even.
Well, I tell you what brings me joy is I'm more available to my granddaughter, who's going to be 5 next month.
Yes.
And that's I mean, I don't have her very often, but when I do, I love that because sometimes I feel like I missed out on Adam's upbringing a little bit, even though that's not true. But I'm more in the moment with her. Also, I had a boy and she's a girl, and so things are a little bit different in that respect.
Yeah.
And having been brought up I was brought up with 3 other sisters, so I can relate to that. No, right now there's no major project.
The project is like being present.
Just being present. Yeah. I think that's I think I have to be that way. And I think I'll sleep better knowing I'm doing that. And those are kind of baby steps, but they're important steps. I don't want to be busy again. You know what I mean? I want to be like, I have to do this, I have to go here and here. You have made my day busy. And it's just a podcast. Come on.
I know.
Important, but it's like that's how I feel, and I think that's enough. And I feel like I'm present to you, and I feel like I'm not too tired, and I feel I've got a nice rest of the day. I do have a meeting coming up, but that's I don't want to load up the schedule.
Yeah, it's totally fair.
Yeah.
And do you think that what's your granddaughter's name again? I've heard you say Everly. Yes. Yeah. So it's interesting in that, like, you guys are a broadcast family. I think everyone knows that, right?
Yeah.
Adam and Marilyn.
Yeah.
And, do you feel like Everly is sort of like growing up in the public eye a little bit because of this?
Probably, but we don't show her face anymore on Instagram. You'll see half of her face or her
so that's on purpose.
Yeah, there is a purpose to that. Like we decided that was a good idea. But sometimes we, I mean, we did the, Ripley's Aquarium, and I just don't do that by myself. I have to take a kid, right? And so she's kind of she's introducing us to a whole different kind of entertainment thing. But she has heard Adam and I together on the air a couple of times, and she thinks that's pretty cool, but she doesn't really know what that means. And then when she's a little one, she was walking by a poster, and she was just learning how to talk and walk and whatever. And Adam said, "Who's that?" And it was a poster, a CHUM poster. And she goes, "That's Nana." And I thought, oh my God.
It just melt your heart, right?
Melt my heart.
Yeah.
I thought that's great. We'll have that forever. So that's good. Yeah. But I think Adam's handled it very, very well. He's a great father.
Yeah.
And we've always been very low on the radar with our
Yeah.
relationship. It's like you're carving out yours,
Yeah.
he's got a mother who's been around in Toronto for quite a bit of time. He carved out his own, and he's
He
certainly,
definitely did. Yeah.
oh my gosh, I say this with all due respect, he's a much better announcer than I am, and he's a
Oh.
deeper thinker than I am. He's more editorial than I am. He knows the business much better than I do. I love just performing and doing that sort of thing. And he's a little bit he's a little deeper, not deeper, but
Analytical of the
and
situation,
yes,
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a great
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like him.
One,
I like that
what,
guy.
well, you should like him. One thing that I was going to ask you about, and maybe this is from my experience working with so many people at the stage of their careers, like you, like Jan
Yeah,
Arden, like Debbie Travis. It's really rubbing off on me lately that people are not running away from age the way that
yeah.
maybe 20 years ago they were. They are embracing it. And it feels so good to be surrounded by that as someone who's sort of, again, growing up in this industry. It's almost like, how do we turn back time? How do we stay young forever? How do we, even just something as simple as that Young Broadcasters Award, it's under 30. It's like, oh, well, I'm 37. So, it's like you're just always clawing against the clock. So,
Yeah.
how have you arrived at this place of embracing, all of your wisdom and all of your experience in today? Because I think that that's something that young women need to hear more than ever.
Well, first of all, I want you to know that I remember the woman who invited me into the TV studio. Her name's Kathy Milton. I'm 65
Yay.
years old. I don't have to look everything up on this thing. But uh, you know, the fact that like, if I was my age in the let's say late 80s, early 90s, I probably wouldn't be here. They wanted young, new, whatever, whatever. It had nothing to do about money because we were all underpaid. And
Yeah.
some of us are still underpaid. I'm not saying I am, but you know,
That's why you
there's
got to start your own podcast network and then you just work yourself up.
wow. I have to talk to you. I got to take your course. But I think that we want to share, all of us that you mentioned, Maureen Holloway being one of them
Oh,
too, Mary
yes.
Davis being one of them,
Yeah.
Jennifer Valentine being another one of them. Can you imagine that at a dinner party?
Oh, my
Well, that would
God.
be good.
Let's hold the panel.
It's called the panel. We have a lot to say about events that have happened, continue to happen, and we're not shying away from how old we are. We're very proud of the work that we've done.
Yes.
And I will speak for all of them, we almost can't believe what we put up with. And we got through it.
Absolutely.
And so that to me is a real kudos to all of us for that one. And that comes with age, comes age's experience,
Hmm.
and that's okay. And if we can share, I was saying to a friend the other day, I will share how I feel about things, but you have to ask. I don't want to be that woman who goes, you know what, I'll tell you what to do. Like, if
Yeah.
people ask me, I will answer them the best of my knowledge
Yeah.
to help mentor them. Mentoring to
Yeah.
me is really important because I
Yeah.
didn't have anybody. I had my mom, but she didn't know the business. And I
Yeah.
I had no mentors. I was raised by men in broadcasting. And by the
I
way,
would say the same about me. Yeah.
yes, right. And the men that I had in my life, all of them, with the exception of maybe two, and you know who you are, were fantastic, Sarah. They
Yeah.
were like, yeah, you go, like Roger Ashby, yeah, go do that TV show. If I didn't have somebody supporting me like that, then it wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. So aging and ageism is not good. I know some people think, when is she going to quit? Maybe they think that because I'd like to get in there. But if they still want me to work here and I still feel the same, I feel like
Yeah.
I've got a lot to contribute, then I'm going to stay here for as long as I can. And
Yeah.
that's purpose to me. And I like that. Yeah.
Purpose is so important.
It's so important. Yeah.
So a flip side to the thing you're most proud of question.
Yeah.
As we wind down here, a moment that you had to stand up for yourself that is burned into your brain because of your experience and wisdom all over all these years. Someone that made you feel less than, that you reminded them that you are a whole person with a lot of purpose. You don't have to mention any names or anything, but an experience.
Well, there's been a couple of guests that have been on either City Line or the Marilyn Denis Show.
Right.
And I've said to them, I remember saying to somebody, they thought they were a pretty big deal. And I said, they were living on the fumes of a show that they had in the 90s.
Right.
I'll leave you with that. And they were not very nice. And it's my show. It's called the Marilyn Denis Show.
Have a little gratitude.
Hello, gratitude. I've taken the time out. You really have nothing to tell me, but I know you're a fan favorite, so okay. And so after the show, they were not nice to the staff. And I said, I stood there and I went, and I said, by the way, I never did watch your show, just so you know. So I hope I gave you enough credit for that. She said, you never watched my show? And she said, oh, like that. I said, that's okay. You never watched mine either. So we're even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that, and it was kind
underlying reminder.
It was very kind what I did, because I said, I just want to, I think I navigated it well, and thanks for coming in today. And she was appalled by that. Anyway, that's one of them. I think I've stood up for a salary being handed to me and pushing the envelope back and saying, that's not good enough. Right. We can do better than that. But that was when I was very well established and I knew I had value. Like I was talking to a friend the other day. She said, I never had the guts to ask for that, because I just always was feeling, and back in the day, we all felt like this. I don't know about you.
Yes.
That we could all be replaced immediately.
Oh, yeah. And even like working hard for and like around the clock, doing good work, having results, and still feeling disposable.
That is so true. That's so true. And I think a little bit of that stays with me, a little bit of that, because that never really goes away.
Yeah. But
the other thing I will say is the thing that wins hands down is if you have passion for the job that you do. And I still have it. That hasn't gone away. I like purpose and passion. That's what keeps me,
Thanks for naming the episode.
Hey! That's what we do here. Anyway, thank you for having
passion. It's been an absolute honor watching your career and having you on this podcast. And thanks for being such a great friend and colleague to so many of the women in my circle.
Hey, congratulations on all that you do. I'm really happy for you just having this business model that lets us speak out. That's awesome, Sarah. Thank you for your time.